There is a bad running joke about photographers that goes something like this. Photographers are violent people. They shoot you, they frame you, and then they hang you on the wall. Sounds really lame. And if you notice my glasses, you've never seen me wear this before, probably, that also has a frame. And the frame is the one that actually keeps all the parts of the spectacles together. But did you actually know that us humans also have a frame that plays a very vital role in which how we show up not only for ourselves but for the world, and in particular for our patients? To learn more, stay tuned for the rest of this video. What is up, everyone? Welcome back or to my channel. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Shweta. I am the founder of Healthy Dynamics. We are a coaching practice that helps healthcare professionals from English as a second language backgrounds become better, more effective, empathetic, and influential communicators in their field of work, build stronger relationships with their patients, and stand out in the workplace as a person of excellence. So if you have already heard the very beginning spiel of this video, I mention the word frame a lot of the times. And the word frame really in the English language represents the periphery or the structure of something. It's what actually holds anything together. So whether it's a picture, whether it's glasses, anything like that, or even the frame of a table on which I'm actually recording this video on the tripod and the camera. But in a very similar fashion, us humans also have a frame, and it's a frame that is popularly known as frame of reference. Now, how did I come about with this particular concept? As you know, I do listen to a lot of podcasts, and the two of them that I listen to are very frequently are the one by Mel Robbins and the one by Jay Shetty. And one guest, who's actually someone that I really admire, was featured in both those podcasts recently, and her name is Lisa Bilyeu. Now, Lisa Bilyeu is the one who mentioned or brings up this concept of frame of reference. And after I listened to both those episodes, I got thinking about how this can be applied during our interactions with patients, and also how we collaborate and work together with our colleagues as a healthcare professional. So before we go any further, let us have a simple definition of what frame of reference is. So the frame of reference, in very simple terms, it means the way in which we see and perceive the world. So how we view things, how our perspective is on things, the opinion that we have on things, the way that we give value to something, our belief system, our other values in life, our principles, our morals, everything falls under this frame of reference. So it really is a big component of how we all are as individuals. And in most cases, it's also very much like a fingerprint for us. Now, our frame of reference could be similar to others. It could also be fundamentally very, very different from others. So, and that's something that we're going to explore a little bit more later on in this video. So a lot of things go into making up what your frame of reference is. Some of those include your childhood and your childhood experiences, how you were brought up. They also include things like the culture that you were raised in, the sort of family dynamic that you're raised in, also any religious beliefs that you may have, also the geographic location of where you live, and the society that you live in, and there's just many, many different things. And a big one is also the life experiences that you have had, good, bad, or otherwise. So, and what's important to know is that, yes, you have a frame of reference, but also so does everybody else. And no two people are going to necessarily have the exact frame of reference all the time. The reason being because every one of us is unique. Like I said in the very beginning, every one of us has a unique fingerprint, and similarly, every one of us has a unique DNA. Similarly, everyone's frame of reference, they might have similar things, but it's not going to look exactly the same. And it's because everyone comes from different walks of life, in very simple terms. Now, why am I talking about frame of reference? So frame of reference really significantly impacts the way in which we communicate and relate with others. Now, let's look at this in the context of how we as healthcare providers speak to and communicate with our patients, and how frame of reference really plays a part in it. And let's go back to, say for example, you as a healthcare provider, You may have chosen your profession because because of the upbringing that you've had, where you may have come from a family where there was a big emphasis on education and academic excellence, like I did. And also, you may feel like the work that you're doing is making a meaningful contribution in other people's lives, and you're making a difference, and you want to help people. That usually is the frame of reference for most people who go into healthcare to begin with, because you value certain things that align with what the profession actually entails. So and this can be applied to really any other area of your life. How you interact with your patients is exactly the same. So say, for example, the frame of reference that you may have is that it could be one of two things. You may see that all patients are vulnerable members of society that really need all the guidance, help, and support. And I, as a healthcare provider, I'm the person who is in a position, it's my duty, it's my, not only my job description, but also my calling and my life duty to do it. On the other hand, and I'm not saying that this is wrong by any means, the other frame of reference could be that patients to me are just, burdens that, I have to just, usher them in and usher them out as soon as possible because I have a million other things to do. That may have developed because of the intensity of your job and the possible stress and the pressure that you're experiencing. And let me reiterate, there is nothing wrong if you feel that way. That's just your frame of reference. Now, I'm going to go into a little bit about how the frame of reference can be beneficial, how it can be a deterrent, and also whether it is adaptable or malleable. So let's get straight into it. So why does having a frame of reference benefit everybody? So obviously, once you know, and this ties very, very well with self-awareness, and once you know what your frame of reference is, you can actually use that to build a relationship, communicate with, and also treat your patients accordingly. So like I said in the very first example, if you are someone who really, really values patient feedback and you value, patient autonomy and things like that, so, you want to be advocate for your patients and also make sure that they're having a good, positive experience, not just for your own personal gain, but also to get them to a better place. That way you know that that is your frame of reference, and you know that that is how you will communicate, that is how you're going to view and respect or otherwise your patients, and also how you would give them the best care and support that's possible. So having a frame of reference, being aware of it is it is one of the superpowers, 100%. Now, one of the foundations of my coaching programs, all of them, is the very, very first module is all about self-awareness. Because if you're not self-aware, Gary Vaynerchuk said this, if you're not self-aware, you are dead. So if you are not self-aware, you're going to become aware as per what society, media, your family, religion, your culture tells you. And they basically dictate what you should do, how you should show up, and everything else in your life. So self-awareness is very, very important, not only as a grounding principle, but also the way in which that you do your work, how you show up for others, what your boundaries are, and also what you vouch for and what you stand for. So all these things go into becoming self-awareness, and self-awareness and frame of reference are very, very closely tied. So if you know what all these things are, what you value, what your beliefs are, what your communication style is, how you view your colleagues, how you view your patients, how you view your profession overall, that is going to significantly impact how you communicate and how you relate to everyone in your workplace, be it your patients or your colleagues. And if you don't know, that's okay. That is what us coaches are here for. We help you actually identify your blind spots and bits where you feel that you need to do a bit more work, and not let just your job description or your job title purely define you. We really, not just me, but coaches in general, we view you as individuals, not just clients who are paying us, but as individuals with your own unique blueprint, your own unique set of challenges that you've come with, your experiences, your trauma, everything like that. So again, having that awareness of who you are and your frame of reference is a very, very powerful tool in which it sets the foundation for how you communicate and show up in the world and how you relate to others. Now, How can frame of reference can be a deterrent? One of the quotes that Lisa Bilyeu mentioned in one of the podcast interviews was that the way you think it ought to be, not what it necessarily is. That's what the frame of reference is. And another very similar quote in relation to this is, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as what we think as it is. So what sometimes tends to happen is that you have your frame of reference and you believe that that is the holy grail. That is the right thing to do. That is what everyone should be following. And if anyone who doesn't align with that, they're doing almost like they're committing a crime. They're doing something immoral or illegal. So very much like that. And this really stems from the implicit and unconscious bias, which I've talked about in previous videos. So if you go with that really fixated, rigid view of frame of reference, it can be problematic. And also, if you can't really identify other people's frame of reference and you are just going into, say, a consultation with a patient with that one, non-breakable or non-moldable frame of reference, then it is going to be quite challenging, because you're going to you could run into quite a lot of conflict and clashes with your patients. Now, let me give you an example of what happened to me about 4 or 5 years ago. So I was at a radiology facility and I was getting in there to get a pelvic ultrasound done. And the sonographer who was doing my ultrasound, and it was a pelvic ultrasound that I had to do. So the sonographer who was doing my ultrasound, he looked at my referral and he asked me, confirmed with me that you're in here for a pelvic ultrasound. And he went through all the referral and that was all fine. And then he asks me, completely out of turn, and he probably didn't even mean this, just like a knee-jerk reaction, he asks me, are you doing this ultrasound with the hopes of getting pregnant? Now, back in the day, I could have taken this very, very personally. And at that point, when I didn't even know about all these things, I definitely did. Because as a child-free woman, if someone says that to me, that is extremely offensive. And by no means am I condoning what he said or did, but I had to be very honest and assertive and told him that that's not what I'm here for. And I also told him that, giving my 2 cents, that not all women want to have babies. Not all women want to get pregnant. So that is where this shows a very big fundamental clash. And this is an example of how this sonographer, and he obviously came from a culture where he was taught that and that's what he was indoctrinated with, that all women want to have babies. All women want to, they put every part of their life in the forefront with the hope of conceiving and getting pregnant one day. And that, at the time, I was very offended, but now looking back at it, I felt, okay, he was saying that as a knee-jerk reaction because that's what he has been indoctrinated into, and that's his frame of reference, that all women want to have babies. Now, by no means am I condoning that, and by no means am I saying that people should do it and just assume that by any means. But this is just an example of how, if you don't have an understanding of what other people's frame of reference may be, there could be clashes. And learning other people's frame of reference is a very, very lengthy, elaborate process, and there's not enough hours in the day to actually do it. But just being aware of the fact that if you have a fixated frame of reference, and if you are interacting with somebody who's got a very different view of the world, there could be clashes and conflicts. And if you don't resolve them properly, that really dissolves the relationship completely. So, and that is one of the deterrents, definitely. So if it's fixated and, whether or not it can be molded into something more positive and more open-minded. Now, which brings me to the next point, whether is a frame of reference malleable? Or in other words, can it be modified, changed, and developed? And the simple answer is absolutely yes. But it doesn't happen overnight, and it also doesn't happen in isolation, like I mentioned in my previous video. Developing a new habit, creating a change, takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of routines that you need to do with your mind. And it's like you go to the gym and you don't just gain muscle or lose weight just by going for 1 or 2 sessions. It is over a prolonged period of time. And putting the right routines and strategies into practice is what will actually modify not all elements, but whatever elements that need to be modified that will benefit you professionally and the way in which you show up to and relate with your patients. And that again is where coaches become very, their role is very fundamental. Now, by no means are coaches like myself or anybody else perfect, and we by no means have mastered the reconditioning and the neuroplasticity of our brain and change the way in which we view things. I'm still very, very biased about a lot of things. There are certain ethnic group of coaching clients I refuse to work with, and that again because I have a frame of reference and I have a very bias that I was not born with it. It's because I'd never had good experiences with it, and that's why I will never do it. Now, some people might say, oh, that's very racist, and I'm not going to be apologetic about that. Yes, it might be racist, but I simply don't want to work with those people because I have my reasons for it. But at the same time, I've had to retrain my mind, my beliefs, my actions, and my strategies and plans in many, many different ways. And I did that by going back and looking at long and hard about what my childhood taught me, what my parents taught me, what my religion and culture taught me, and then changing that over a period of time to developing new systems and new programs. And yeah, so your frame of reference can 100% be modified and molded in a way that you might find it beneficial. That way you can become not only a better communicator, but have a different, more positive and empowering view of the world, and also view your patients in a different light and treat them accordingly. So in a nutshell, this is what frame of reference was about. And yeah, I may do another video on this, I may not. Well, we'll just have to see how it goes. And as always, if you're enjoying the content on this channel, please make sure that you hit the like if you like this video, and subscribe and hit the notification bell. And tell me a little bit about what are the different components that make up your frame of reference, and how has that served you or otherwise in your professional life or in any other area of your life. So again, thank you very much for your time, attention, and presence, and I will see you same time next week.